Hello, 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 mi gente. Welcome to Crystal Sage Wisdom with the PEREZ sisters. Yo soy Alex, and this is
Ram. I'm drinking mocha iced coffee today, and if you want to sponsor the PEREZ Sisters of Crystal Sage Wisdom, who love to host cafecito breaks, we would love to have the most perfect cafecito sponsor, because we love coffee. What are you drinking, Alex?
mi gente. You know me. I'm a classic salute, a classic black cafecito espresso chick. You know, a true blue Puerto Rican. I always say to people, us Puerto Ricans, we've been drinking black coffee since we were in the womb. And this is why so many of us, it's such a huge component of our life.
And everything we do. And don't get it twisted, cafecito break is not named after the weak, regular American coffee. It's named after cafecito or Cuban espresso.
We like it strong, like boom.
I slept on that tiny little cup of Cuban espresso one time. I was like, this is an insult. What are you giving me? This
You were
is almost-
judgy. You were like,
This is almost like a little shot. Then cut to the entire night. I couldn't sleep, and I had to work the next day, and that was a large learning lesson because it was a long, full day.
it's so interesting too. Like a lot of cultures have those special coffees where lo ponen in this tiny little thing, and at first you're like, 'cause I remember when I had my first Turkish coffee, and they gave it to me like a tiny little thing, and at first I was like, bueno.
It's almost like an insult, but not.
Ooh, but let me tell you, the insult was was on me when I got smacked with how hard that caffeine hit me. Boy, I was up, and it was delicious.
It is a smackdown of wake ups,
Yep.
just like we've gotten recently. This is episode 13.
13, mi gente. 10, 3.
And before we dive into the subjects today, do you see where we are? We're in the hoods.
That's right, mi gente. We are in the hood, in the community.
Somewhere in Brooklyn. Shout out to Rose.
Keeping
That's
it real.
all I'm gonna say. Today's conversation, how can we not talk about what happened last week?
And I just think it's really appropriate with so much going on that we are here in episode 13.
Yeah.
13 has always been what? Recognized in the world. That number has
As the number that gets skipped over.
right, skipped over. It has mystery. It has fear. It has curiosity. Like there's always so many unknowns with the number 13. Even trickery. Like we really think about how different cultures around the world has labeled it different things.
But that's not the subject today.
It isn't the subject, but it goes hand in hand in everything we're living, because our whole world, as we're seeing and experiencing it, is all of that. It's full of a lot of questions, a lot of mystery, a lot of trickery. There's even fear, a lot of fear mongering in many components. There's even attachments of negativity. Like there's so many things that we're all experiencing day to day. And obviously the biggest one this week, biggest story that has brought up a lot of different topics has been
The Trump assassination attempt. It has been a curious thing the way all of this has unfolded. And we have a lot of things to share, updates, maybe a little cafecito, espresso tea. I just made that up to share with you. So first things first, I just want to say that we are grateful that President Trump is okay. Second, I would like to say is that it is very disheartening to learn that a former FDNY fire chief was killed at the rally, diving to protect his family. So down to the very last moment of this man's life, he died in service, right?
He's a hero.
What does a fire chief do? They risk their lives every single time.
He stayed true to what he always did in his day-to-day. He was to serve and protect in the capacities that he did, and especially his family. And you know what? We pray that he is resting in peace, and we definitely send prayers to his family. And I'm sure that that man wouldn't have it any other way, because I'm sure that when it came down to his wife and daughters,
Yeah.
you know,
So rest in peace, Corey Comparatori. Your name will always be remembered. Last night, Donald Trump made his official speech accepting the nomination
at the RNC.
in which he did something that I've never seen another man do, right? So under a week, he has a near miss on his life, and you see that reaction. We'll dive in a little bit into those discussions. And then yesterday, you see a man who he just looks different in the face, and somber. I'm grateful that they honored the legacy of this man who died at the rally. They had his actual fire suit at the rally, and they held a moment of silence for him. And I was crying when I saw President Trump walk over and kiss the fire chief suit. It's good to know that his family is going to be taken care of. Immediately, people donated millions to support his family, and from what we understand, there were 2 other people who are recovering, and they will also get money to support. And this is the right thing to do. I mean, we went to the Bronx rally, and we would like to talk about it because I think it's important. I think that the community is looking for people to tell different stories, because what we're seeing out there as people who wear these independent boots on the ground hats reporting on local stuff, and we've directly experienced the rally from the very beginning of it to the very end. So we can tell you everything we experienced. And I think the Bronx rally is a good example, because that rally was held in the pure hood. And there was a little nervousness. I have to say, we have family members that were a little worried about us going to the rally over there, because they were like, what if something pops off? What if violence pops off? And we cannot have this discussion without having that part of the discussion, because it is a real thing. One of the things that we have been saying here on this channel, not necessarily Crystal Sage Wisdom, but from the PEREZ sisters, and whatever messages you've heard it from, we've always been telling you, and we've been saying this since 2016, this is bigger than Trump. We've been telling you this all of the time. And one of the clues of why we learned that this was bigger than Trump is that we started to see how the media and certain people in political leadership develop a vitriol, and that vitriol has been playing nonstop till the present moment. And there are people who know that vitriol so well, they know it like a song, and it's hard to disconnect from that song, and it's hard to undo what you think you know. So we are living in history right now. There are a lot of things that people think they know, don't know, want to know. One thing that is undeniable is, while here we support freedom of speech, we understand that that doesn't mean you're free from consequences. And there is a responsibility that people should have when they are in a position of communicating to the masses when they're in a position of leadership, when they're in a position of being a mouthpiece like the mainstream media that can reach millions and millions of people. And when we're living in times when alternative creators are getting sued for defamation because of words, and yet people in political office or mainstream media, there's no accountability for that. Now, I don't think canceling and censorship, more censorship, is the solution. And we're seeing the sides that are usually advocating for freedom and justice, advocating for censorship and cancel culture right now. Help me understand how those elements create any opportunity for people to speak, because on top of it, there's a lot of charged up emotions. With that, as I pass it over to my sister, I also want to say on Monday, on X, Cafecito Break, and we will continue to host spaces covering the subject, inviting people who have been investigating this to talk further about the assassination on Donald Trump. What's real? What's not? Did the Secret Service set him up? Was it a deep state setup? Was it a staged event? Was it a false flag? People have questions. But again, as always, every single time there's an event, what do we see all the time? People fighting with each other. People in sacred unions fighting with each other, getting so emotional that it's leading to even more separation, more people getting unfollowed, more people breaking up friendships. Now the left is pointing fingers at what the right usually does, and vice versa. It's like a little flip. All of that is happening in real time, and it would be irresponsible for us not to talk about this today, even though truly all we wanted to talk would be about just loving, coffee, love, family, being outside. But this is where we are right now. And part of the reason why certain things don't move forward in any, in many groups is because we never talk about it. Just push it under the rug, push that under the rug, push this under the rug. And then what happens? People explode.
Anything else? Boy, she unloaded there. It's a lot to unpack. I think that I want to start by first sharing with the community, especially for those that may not know, my sister and I, another part to us is that we are very much into local activism, and especially the last several years, but it is something that we have always been a part of our whole life in some way or the other, which we have discussed in other videos in terms of how we were brought up, ways we were exposed. We don't need to dive down that road. Just to let anyone know that's just kind of joining the community, or to remind folks that this is a part of us, and has always been a part of us. We've always enjoyed politics. We've always followed politics. We've always made it our business to not just learn and be aware of what's going on in our day-to-day, but always seeking different sources. So we've never just sat down and turned on regular mainstream and just gotten all of our information in one way. It's something we're very active about. And we're very active on the ground, particularly around freedom. I would say that if we're gonna, whether it's medical freedom, whether it's freedom of speech, that is I would say one of our major passions. And anyway, I just want to say that if I don't want it to feel like it's coming from left field, right? But then part of this channel, Crystal Sage Wisdom, is that we have to understand that part of being wise and increasing our wisdom is not ignoring the elephants in the room. And as much as my sister has, to her point, was saying how polarized so many of these topics are and have become, how there's so much infighting even amongst relatives and couples. As much as that happens, we cannot hide behind that as an excuse not to face things or begin having the conversations. And my sister and I have always been very big on, it's not about, the goal is not that we have to agree. The goal is not that I want you to see it the way we're saying it or the way I'm saying it. The goal is, can we hear each other out? Can we learn different perspectives? Can we at least be open to the questions, no matter what side you may feel you're more aligned with, right? Because that is the goal of being in the village, in la comunidad. And that has always been the premise of anything my sister and I have ever done, whether it's under Cafecito Break umbrella or Crystal Sage Wisdom, the PEREZ sisters. The universal goal has always been, let's sit down and chat about it,
and
let's
doing
learn.
it on a local level,
right,
with community
and being respectful.
Community, different human beings,
right,
of
exactly.
all ages,
exactly.
all colors, and we have a rich, amazing community of people that we love
right.
and treasure, that aren't just based here in New York, but they're in different parts of the country.
Different parts of the country, and we get the opportunity and the blessing to learn from each other, and if you think about it, mi gente, this is not a new thing. Mm-hmm. If you go all the way back to any indigenous population, there was always a community, and everybody had a different role, because everybody's role, their job was to have an expertise in that role. Mm-hmm. If you were the leader, if you were the healer, if you were the person, the warrior person that led the tribe, or the people that hunted, like everyone had an expertise in Act 2. So to just kind of finish out my thought, in the end, communities have always structured themselves a certain way, giving people different positions, so that it's like everybody goes out and sort of conquers and comes back, right, to the community, and you come together to learn from one another, to teach and to work together. And in modern day society, so many forces have been at work to destroy that, and we are seeing that in our face across our country very easily. I mean, we don't even have to go down the list of the many ways they have us fragmented, polarized, y peleando, fighting.
Demasiado.
But that's not gonna get us nowhere. But anyway, I say all of that to say that at the end of the day, we, like my sister said, we do got to talk about these things. And starting at the top of the week, there was an assassination attempt. How did the mainstream report it? They were saying incident.
He fell off the stage.
A little fall. It's like, if you pay attention to the words and wording, the way they try to minimize a situation, the way I see it is that even if they were just aiming at one person, I'm going to look at it as you were putting every single person there in danger. And they did. And clearly there was loss. There were victims. That's not a little thing.
The people that didn't get hurt, there's PTSD.
Right. And it's not a little thing. It's not okay, like for those around, and this may be you, and for those that were like, breathe it out, oh, they missed. Oh my God, you have one job. What, you have one job to hurt innocent people? Because that's what happened. It's like people are, it's almost like you're behaving like you're celebrating that. To me, I'm sorry, I don't care how old you are. I don't care where you land in your opinions, but come on, that's wrong.
What does that say about you as a human being? That's putrid.
Not cool. That's not
poison.
like,
that's intoxication.
That's not humane. Like, you can detest a situation, a topic, and even a person without being so cold like that. That's just evil. And that's very disappointing to see that come out of anyone's mouth. I could give a little room to the youngins who unfortunately have been raised to only predominantly focus on one opinion, one area, and they don't have a contrast, right? But even at some point, that's not going to be enough. Their age is not going to be enough, because they're going to grow up And eventually, as an adult, you will have adult responsibilities. But to hear adult, come on, that we're better. We're better than that. Like I'm not gonna make excuses. I'm not gonna say that it is shameful. It's a little embarrassing, and it's disappointing, really. And I just say that we're better. That's ultimately that we can be so much better than that. And again, we don't have to agree. We don't.
Right. And
But-
this is also why, like, whenever we hold spaces, it doesn't matter what the subject is, whether we're traveling down a shamanic experience, dream time, or we're talking about something like this that is very serious. We don't care what your level of expertise is. No one's gonna really be listening to you if all you're coming into when you come into spaces is ritual. People feel that first. Anybody feels that first, right? Because we always said this at Botanical when people be like, "Oh, it's a little bit weird. You guys are like witches." I was like, no. We're talking about human beings who feel things as natural. Are you trying to deny humanity? Because that's another psyop that's happening here. Mainstream media programming people to be so desensitized that they don't even know what the heck they're saying. They don't even know how their words are landing on people. They say such things and you're like, that human being shouldn't really be relating with humans. And it's terrible, right? Because this is where you open those doors. Does that person need a mental illness check? Does that person need a little evaluation? Our behavior does not inspire confidence in the human beings that look at all of us as useless eaters. They think that we're just so low level in our thinking and our relating that they could care less about us, and they made these big decisions to get rid of us. Hashtag look up whatever you want on this subject if you don't believe us.
Which is why this is about the people. The time that we're living in right now, they have us so polarized to be focused on, this candidate, this candidate, this topic, this race, that gender, that gender. No, it's really about us and keeping us fragmented, keeping us misinformed, keeping us uninformed, and keeping us not wanting to get informed. It's like they've done such a brilliant job at giving us the illusion that we have all the information right at our fingertips half the time, when most of the time the information that's being sent to us is very controlled information. Mainstream media, maybe the people writing the articles or whatever, speaking, the reporters, maybe they don't understand the full impact of what they're doing in terms of the trickle effect. But I'm not gonna excuse them because they do purposely understand that it is a play on words. Mm-hmm. And it's always about a vibe, it's always about a goal, it's always about a message. And mainstream media is complicit on so many things that are happening within our country right now. Not just the political landscape, but even like my sisters was touching upon, even health. When was the last time any of you, and this is another real topic for another day, but when was the last time you really started to look at what's happening to our farmers in this country? The people growing our food, our actual food.
What's happening to all of our food that just keeps disappearing. Burned down. They want to eliminate the cows. They want us to eating crickets.
But
protein.
Mainstream media makes it seem, like you're guilty. Oh my God, how dare you eat that? Wait, how dare I
how
eat
dare you support
fresh food growing from
cows
Mother Earth?
that throw farts. How dare you support them?
And again, it's an agenda. But we digress. These are again
We
topics
jumped off
for
the subject to a
for
very
another
far
day
place.
because there's so many things happening to again keep us polarized, keep us fighting, keep us confused. Going back to what's happening in the present day, listen, we're in the midst of an election. It's pretty clear. It's very chaotic. You know, one side, we don't know what the hell's going on with it yet. One side seems very clear on what they're doing and what they want. Yet in this country right now, there is so much disconnection between the people, and for me, that's what matters most. You know, like I don't care who you like, who you don't like, who you want to vote for. That is your right. What I care about is I want to see my people educated. I want to see my people working together, and I want to see
our
my
people working. I want to see our people making money
and healthy. Like I want to see us
creating
starting
legacies
and starting at local level, and we have to get that means banding together to fight these bigger entities that are ultimately making the decisions that are affecting us on a day-to-day basis. But in any case, going back to the topic at hand, you know, here we are. The word Trump brings up so much in so many people depending on who you're talking to, right? And I think that for my sister and I, when we experienced the Bronx rally, we learned a lot of stuff that day. And
it felt like New Year's. Let me tell you how. I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this.
so naughty.
I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this. The last time that I was around my extended family, I would take the Trump Bronx rally any day.
It was fun.
It was a lot of fun. But besides that, right? Because people be like, oh, okay, you guys are supporting Orange Man cult. No, this is bigger than Trump. Part of the reason we were motivated to go there in the first place is because we've met many amazing people who support Trump for different reasons. Some of it is just purely because they love this country so much. And when they tune into the messages of the Democrats, do you think the Democrats love this country? Do you think the Democrats are teaching people through their rhetoric to love this country? Do you think the Democrats are teaching people through their rhetoric to respect the one and only flag that we have? It should be the one and only flag that is in any federal building or any government related mass transportation situation. Yes, the United States of America flag. I'm sorry. I love the Puerto Rican flag.
We do.
And I would tattoo it if I wasn't afraid of tattoos on my body. And I want to tattoo it and mark everybody with the Puerto Rican flag.
That's a little too much.
Exactly.
A little too much.
That's my point. Just because I love the flag so much doesn't mean that I have to make you love my flag so much. But if we're in the United States of America, which flag is the for you? Which one represents the United States of America? I don't. And here's, I could hear it. Oh,
Can you hear it? Can you hear it?
I could hear it. I could hear people saying, "Oh my God, but that's a racist colonial. That's a representation of the colonial." I'm going to invite the community to fast forward and join us here in the present moment where we are. Because ain't nobody got time to be talking back then. Real shit is happening right now. And if before we can talk about the real shit that's happening right now, we got to go and explore and do a review that's going to be a couple of years. When are we going, by the time we start talking about what happened now?
What are we actually going to accomplish?
Nada.
You know, there's a time and place for everything. If we're having
If we're going to a historical seminar, sure.
Exactly. If the goal is, hey, let's just learn about the past, which it is important, you know, like don't
Because we're not
forget.
about for erasing history.
No, I'm not about.
Let's be clear on that. That's a different subject.
We're not about that, and we do feel that it is very important. But when it comes down to keep staying in the present, what do we need to do? Focusing on what do we need to do as a people right now, to support ourselves and our communities. No, we can't be going back 100, 250 years. Like, we got to stay here so that we can move forward. Because otherwise, like my sister said, we're just gonna be doing this the whole time, and we're never gonna actually accomplish anything.
And realize that whatever is happening, whatever little details we're trying to share with you, something much bigger above your pay grade and above our pay grade has just fucking happened.
Mira, mi gente,
and has been happening. And hold on. And if what happened last week, if the intention had been achieved, we would have been in civil war right now today. There might have been an explosion of people in their emotions responding with violence.
Both sides.
Both sides. There would have been reason for the powers that would just love to lock Americans down again to do so that there could be a play at the election, because Biden is not looking too good, and rumor has it that he's about to step down. Is anybody surprised? Guess what? We weren't. We had our eyes on Biden, and we were trying to warn the community members, but some people had such severe TDS that people like us got canceled along with Trump. People like us lost our livelihoods like everybody else, just because we were speaking out and speaking up about the bullshit that we're seeing,
or even just honestly questioning.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of things that were just very obvious to some of us, that it wasn't for others. Not because, in my opinion, not because others aren't smart. I feel that a lot of folks were just, like my sister said, caught up in their emotion.
And then another thing,
it wasn't allowing you to really process the way you could have.
And here's another thing, though, that you mentioned when you were talking about people being in back in the day, like their skill set was honed in different places. We've told you part of our skill set is content creating. Just because it looks easy to record, put a camera, investigate, doesn't mean that it is. A huge responsibility comes with doing this work. Just like I don't tell a computer programmer what to do and what's wrong, it's really a little bit of like coming out of your butt when you tell people who just do something for a living, or like have like 10,000 plus hours or whatever they're doing, and we have that. And some of the things that we talk about, like, we're not trying to steer you the wrong way, plus we're not telling you to think like us. What we're saying is that our communities, when we get upset that we haven't evolved, that we haven't expanded, that we don't have the prosperity that we want, or we're so focused every day on carrying the past and thinking what that other person's doing next door, all that time could be applied to us. What could we have achieved if we focus all that vitriol and apply it to let's build together locally? You think we would have been played the way we get played when gentrification comes and throws and bulldozers over our community? But because everybody's fighting so much, and I know more than you,
and that's where they want us, and that's the trickery about all of this, right? They want us to be in that fighting. But it's like you were saying, like, imagine if all those people that are passionate about history and going back to the past, maybe a little bit too much, but imagine if instead you were creating beautiful workshops in your own community where you're just teaching beautiful lessons, you're teaching history to your own community. It's like everyone in their expertise. Like, imagine if that passion or that frustration was put into supporting mom and pop small businesses in your own communities. Like, can you imagine like the type of different things that could have been growth right now if in the last 5-10 years we would have even just taken half of that high vibe emotion and just turned it into something
You know, we spend all that time
intentional.
canceling people, chasing people down,
And we have to stop.
harassing people on comments. I know people in my industry that I had to block because some of y'all got a little crazy. Somebody had a little accident. But didn't that almost feel, listen,
Mi gente,
that felt like
it was
something-
just a little accident.
it was just a little accident, but I have to tell you, I was about to jump over this camera and dip because you never know. Like, we are still living in New York, and lots of interesting crimes can happen in broad daylight.
A moment's notice.
Like the other day, when a restaurant not too far from where we are at was robbed, and patrons who were dining were robbed in broad daylight. And that is also another reason why we keep saying this is bigger than Trump. The Democratic policies, President Joe Biden, that we know if he's not here, then who is managing him? Because it's not lost on me that this unfortunate incident happened at a perfect time when Joe Biden was probably getting the worst press of his life. Another question. We have questions, mi gente. Do you have questions? How are you seeing this?
And you know, I know that this conversation feels like it may be all over the place because there's a lot of different topics, but in reality, they're all connected. They're all connected in the way that life has been spun so out of control. Our day-to-day living and lifestyles has been spun so out of control, and all of these topics that maybe we've kind of dipped in or touched upon lightly are literally what we're living day to day. And it's understandable why so many people would prefer to sort of unplug or not be as active, because it is overwhelming, you know. And obviously, as medicine women, we're always wanting to remind the community that you must take care of yourselves primero, starting first. Make sure you are checking in with yourself. How are you feeling? How are you taking care of yourself? How's your mind? You know, right now, mental disease around our country is bad. You know, a lot of people suffering, you know, and it doesn't have to be something extreme. It could just be like you're really stressed or you're depressed. Self-check-ins, bien importante, and especially because there's so much happening in this country. And mi gente, buckle up, because it's going to continue. This is an election year. That means that every side is kind of like, you know, it's almost like everybody wants to throw a show. Like, whose show is going to be have the bigger sound, the bigger message, the bigger impact? And while you're witnessing those shows, sister reminder, try not to get lost in the sauce.
And can you make sure you're saying, correct the record, that you're not implying that this whole thing was a make pretend assassination attempt when you say show?
I'm saying a show because we all know that politics is always a show to some degree. I'm sorry, it is. Like, in my opinion, I'm not implying anything about the assassination attempt. I'm talking about politics in general is always a show to some degree. You know,
yeah, I mean, it's like they're throwing all of their best marketing efforts.
But it has to be that, because if think about it, if they are not trying to grab your attention, are you gonna look? You know, that's true for anything. And so no matter what's going on or how you feel about something, where your opinion lies, just keep yourself grounded. Don't get too caught up in the sauce, and ask questions, even if it's people that you really love or support. Make sure that you're stepping back and like
ask questions.
You know, am I really seeing this right? You know, am I? Because that I feel like it's a self-responsibility, and it's also part of your self-care. Self-care isn't just, am I eating right? Am I sleeping well? Am I resting? Self-care, you're protecting your mindset. You're protecting your energy field. You're protecting your emotions, and that means being very accountable to, you know, what you're paying attention to, what you're ingesting, what you're contributing to. Like, it's a back and forth, you know.
Right. And while the choice is yours, what I want to say, as my natural Ariesness, is that longer we don't look at what is uncomfortable, the harder that discomfort will get for you.
And we don't want to be uncomfortable.
And then if you think you're having mental challenges, wellness, stress, anxiety now, I know that maybe I sound like an asshole, I'm sorry, but think about how many people for many years have been trying to warn us. You know, one of the little things that woke me up, because I remember it was the most random comment on a message board from someone who lived in the UK. And maybe this comment came almost 15 years ago.
Wowza.
A long time ago. And that comment was pretty long, but the core of those messages were, Americans do not be stupid. Was headed your way is really bad. And how come? We were getting a heads up because sometimes other countries experience things a little first, like test sites. Other countries, like let's say London and France, and they've been experiencing an unmanageable immigration problem. Since we do some of our homework, right? So nobody's perfect. There's a lot of things to be paying attention to. We had a clue. How many years ago we had this clue?
Since mass migration started in Europe. How long was that?
I'm sorry, I'm laughing.
That's true. I mean,
this was a while ago. This was several years ago.
That was a long time ago. I remember when it was first beginning in different countries where immigrants were refugees were being brought into certain countries. I remember right away there was a lot of things for me that were just red flags. Like it didn't feel like it was a natural migration. That was the thing. Like some things will naturally feed into the other, right? And you'll feel that it was a natural flow or natural evolution of something. But right away, to me, the way things were moving back then, there was something I didn't feel natural about. It felt a little bit too forced. It felt like all of a sudden every government in every country was forcing the situation. Yeah, like it wasn't just, hey, there's this natural thing happening and let's do the best we can. It was almost like, no, you must. It was such a different vibe. And again,
they were telling their citizens that it's like, no, this is going to be good for your country. And some of them were being very clear with what the motives were. We need to increase the birth rate. I don't know if the Democrats here have been that forthcoming, because that's part of one of the reasons maybe we're seeing all this people coming through the border illegally. Americans have stopped procreating a lot. And
worldwide.
But Western societies,
bad, mi gente bad.
There's a correlation to some of that we're experiencing right now. Now, the whole thing, when people were questioning, like, but this is destabilizing our neighborhoods. We were seeing in those reports when they were experiencing, the UK was experiencing their migration crisis, they were getting put in hotels in places where it almost seemed like 5-star. There were these this historical sites that nobody ever had access to, but migrants were sort of living, and we were like, is this? I thought people had done those things.
They were being provided for.
Yeah.
You know, remind you of anything?
Does that story seem familiar? And then when you would hear people who would protest these things because they saw that the resources in their community were dwindling, but worse yet, they saw an increase of crime. They saw that their beautiful city was becoming more graffiti and trash ridden.
So
they
congested.
saw a lot of congestion. They started seeing an explosion of tent cities and an explosion of women and girls getting attacked and sexually abused, assaulted, raped. Remind you of anything?
And those people protesting back then in those countries they were punished severely for it.
Yeah.
They were used as examples.
And some of them got jailed, right?
So
all
us
sorts of
on this
stuff.
side of the pond,
We learned.
watching those news reports, and again, we're not on the ground over there. That's not my country. I don't understand the full scheme of their politics or the full scheme of the whole area. But I was watching, I was reading, I was listening, and I was understanding that there was a pattern being created all throughout Europe. There were many different stories, many different opinions, but it still doesn't change the patterns. And that's what I always like to pay attention to the most, is when I don't have real proof about something, I will look for the things that are very universal, that are very consistent, and that are patterns. And when we started to see the same exact cookie cutter situation happening here right away, not just us, but a lot of people that were also sort of, following these stories and these topics for many years, we were all like,
Ringing in alarm bells.
something doesn't feel right
And
here.
Look, to the very present moment, a reporter told me the other day, because that is also what happens. People who are mainstream media reporters look at indie reporters like we're nothing, like we're sandbags in the universe. You don't know nothing. Sometimes we know a lot more than you do. So we're being looked at like our points of views are xenophobic. Yet we have contacts that are specifically boots on the ground, reporting on the movements of illegal immigration at the border.
Listen, and if you don't want to pay attention to that, if that to you feels like that's over there, I don't understand. You got all could be lying. If you are just like, no, they need to be here. If you're really like, well, just think about these questions. If you want to look at it only from migrants' point of view, is it even a good quality of life for them to be brought at levels where they cannot be supported or really taken care of or really genuinely welcomed? What position does it really put them in?
Yeah, let's put you in a hotel for 60 days, give you everything you want, and then when the 60 days are up,
Pa'
afuera,
out.
You and your family are out homeless, and now we have lots of pockets. And here's another thing: you have migrants in the neighborhood near you.
They're
And
everywhere.
most of the time, no one's asking the residents or letting them know that it's happening. They're just sneaking them into your neighborhood. And that is not cool, because a lot of bad habits are coming. I'm not saying all the people who are here are bad. I'm just saying, when you look at the numbers, we have an increase of crime, an increase of theft, an increase of crime on policemen. I know that there's a lot of hatred towards policemen, but if we don't have a society that's built and cultivated on respect, what do we have? And a lot of the migrants that are like being violent with police officers, that are assaulting women, girls, they're illegal migrants. They're not even Americans.
I mean,
Not all of them.
Mi gente. Another thing that to me, I'm like, just look at the general stuff. Like, okay, maybe they're not gonna believe your statistics on crime. Maybe
Oh yeah, that's
you're
right.
lying.
Because crime is down. I forgot. Crime is down.
Because the best mayor in the world,
Says crime is down.
that crime is down the subway.
Maybe crime is down the subway after all the
But
cops.
if you don't want to believe anything in your own country, why don't you go and research in their land, in their countries where they're coming from, where so many of them are saying, well, their crime levels are down.
Right.
Their
While
jails,
our crime levels are so
their
up.
jails are empty or almost empty.
Some of the terrorists are here.
Where are they? Have you asked yourself where they are? And again,
You're being
obviously,
xenophobic.
it's not everyone. But I don't know about you. I believe that any country has the right to vet who's coming in.
Absolutely.
100%.
And it's not fair for the people that have been waiting here for years to try to come in to the country the right way, who have been paying money, who are studying, that are making the biggest familial sacrifices.
Big sacrifices. The immigration into legal citizenship process is a hard process for people. and an expensive one, and it doesn't happen overnight, except for the last few years, when all these magical things suddenly started to happen. But in our history, that's never happened like that before.
And look, we've gotten through a lot of subjects to sort of like try to like contain this. Here's what's happening in real time. So much of what's coming in through the south border, they're not just Latinos, they're Asian, Black, all sorts of human beings, Middle Eastern,
everywhere.
Arabic, all sorts of human beings are coming through the border. But most people don't know that. They just equate border, Mexico, South America. So you know what's happening in real time? People are starting to create, an animosity is stirring up within Americans toward Latinos.
Whether you're legal or not.
Whether you're legal or not. People like us, we're gonna have to be walking around with more IDs because you're getting sized up. There are the levels of potential civil wars or little wars that can break up within groups is at a potential explosion point. And
sad.
Even though it feels like we're all over the place, and in some ways this conversation is, but our message is still the same. Ojo pendiente, a lot is popping off. If you think this is stressful now, have a conversation with yourself, check inside, do what you need to do to preserve your mental wellness. But many people asked us, sent us message during 2020, whether they were nice messages or not so nice messages, asking us to shut up, to stop talking, to stop moviendo la cuchara, to stop creating trouble. They were asking us to stop talking and questioning what was happening with the shot or was happening with the George Floyd riots. Imagine had we listened then. Imagine if everybody took that advice back then. We would be in bigger trouble today. If there are people fighting in New York that the reason some of us have certain freedoms is because of those unknown people who've been in Albany, who fight bills that are coming in to further strip away parental rights, to challenge what the databases where they want to put everybody who has not been unvaxxed to a tracking system.
Essentially just losing more freedoms.
And so these words are not empty. And had all of us just stopped when many people wanted us to stop and just stir in the little pot, maybe we would still be in lockdown still today. Maybe we would still be having to use our papers to go into restaurants. But people we knew kept challenging that system over and over and over. You're not going to shut us out. We're Americans. We're not going to be showing papers to go eat at a restaurant.
Mi gente, bringing it back around to election year, what do we really want? We want to be able to go to la tienda and afford food, right?
Without getting killed to go to la tienda.
We want to be able to, go on a little vacation with our family and not feel like, can I even afford it? Folks want to be able to buy their house or move.
Or save money.
They want to be able to commute without feeling
like the people that they have to live with right now, because a lot of people están viviendo apretado.
Everything has gotten day-to-day living for most Americans has gotten so intense and hard. And I know that that's another reason why a lot of people don't explore all these topics that we chat or that we brought up today, or maybe you're half in, half out. But just as you're approaching election year, you enter it with questions that is affecting your life. Like the food is out of control.
$12 for eggs.
The economy is out of control. no matter where you stand on the topic of immigration, you got to admit
It's
that is out of control. It is not an organized, at least if it was an organized, well established, well situated, responsible situation, but you gotta recognize it isn't. What does that mean?
You can't offer a solution and create other problems for many more people. Do you not see that we've been living in inverted land for, I don't know, 10 years or something? Because something really strange happened, I don't know, maybe 2011, where things have been sort of inverted. And we've been sort of living this life and catering to the tiny few and trying to mold our lives around this mindset that is warped, and it's not working. It just doesn't work.
It just has kept us fighting and separate.
Yeah.
And it's kept us believing that we're so different. Listen,
Yeah.
listen, we're two Latinas, you know, born and raised in New York,
Brooklyn.
Puerto Rican, but you know, we're Boricuas, you know, we Boricuas, all right? We drink,
Brooklyn.
we drink coffee here in Brooklyn, you know? Listen, my people, my folks, my beautiful caramels, like, we tend to come from democratic generational families. And you know, it's not even like dip out, like, yo,
Dip out of that party.
can we all just agree on the fact that there's things that we need as a community? You know, like, we need to develop ourselves economically. You know, we need to be healthier. We need to have access to healthy food, not chemical-laced food. You know, we need to be able to go to la tienda and buy our kids some eggs and milk to afford it. You know, like Latinos. You know, I mean, really every American. But just because I'm a Latina, I'd love to see my fellow Latinos, like, really stand up and understand that you do have a really beautiful political power and voice in this country and in this election year, and you can use it. You know, do not waste it. And even if you're just doing it locally, use it. We need our caramels as well to stand up and come to the table, because guess what, at the table we really haven't had much representation. So when you hear my sister and I, we're talking about all these topics and how it's been affecting us as a people, meaning the whole American country or all of our communities, it's also important to highlight specifically our caramel communities, you know, our Latino communities across the country. You know, the truth is, we've always been sort of silent when it comes to political voices. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately,
we're really great at knowing how to silence other people who want
to try, right? Or who are trying to do it, right? Like, we're so good at stepping on it or not supporting.
We're really good at being order followers.
Pero we also need to understand that we need to come to the table too. You know,
be a part of it.
And be a part of the conversations. Like,
that
we need to be,
because you know what? I gotta say, too many people, too many caramels are with the I syndrome. But nobody invited me. Do you think people are inviting us to go to places? We just show up.
We've been being told to be quiet for years. You know,
gotta insert yourself.
You gotta just go. And you know, because we've done that, I'll tell you what we have gained. We've gained a lot of beautiful connections and relationships within so many different groups. Mm-hmm. People that we don't all agree with.
Yeah.
People that have different focuses. Even people that we're like, okay, maybe that's not really me. But you know what? I'm so happy to know you anyway. I'm really proud of the work you do. You know, we've gained so much knowledge in terms of what's happening directly in New York, in terms of what's been happening on the ground, in terms of universal politics that's affecting our country. We've gained a lot of knowledge in the last few years because we've put ourselves out there.
And we've been nonstop. This is an everyday endeavor, an everyday learning endeavor. And also too, like, we've been able to reach outside New York, and our messages have even reached, like, Mexico, even China, outside. Like, think about the world and many people, even in your communities and our communities, they get triggered when anything changes, everything feels different. And some people are used to being and thinking and living in a small mindset, and people like us who want to live a better, healthier, more prosperous, peaceful life.
It rocks the boat.
Too much.
It makes people feel uncomfortable.
Rise up to the occasion.
But we deserve, mi gente, we deserve more than just
having to suffer or
a poverty
suffer.
mindset.
Oh, how we suffer.
Mi gente, there's a big difference. There's a big difference between living a life of humility and being humble. Big difference than that of poverty mindset. Very big different lines. There's nothing wrong with loving and living life and wanting to have a humble life versus I just want to be in my suffering poverty mindset and lifestyle. No, I feel like you are a divine child.
Right, because
you're not supposed to be here to want to live that.
That energy is a low dense energy, and when you're in that low dense energy, a lot of other new ideas are not necessarily going to be able. It's like a force field; they're not really going to kind of penetrate. And
this is why it starts always like what we're always saying, like broken records. It starts with us. Like if we're not doing the inner work, and you know, I know sometimes people want to connotate that cheesy, spirituality. But actually, it is the most important thing you could ever do in your life. I've always said the biggest revolution is you going back to yourself, because everything that happens from the moment we are born is to take you away, disconnect you from you. You know, but we're born already divine beings. We're born beautifully.
Even when you wake up, everything is designed to take you away from you.
Exactly. Everything. Fragment, lifestyle, culture, religion.
Email, internet.
But when you make the time, you prioritize the time to be self-accountable for your self-care, for your education, for your choices, for the way you live your life and your lifestyle. Let me tell you something. You get sharper with your boundaries. Your senses get stronger and sharper, and you're able to navigate life so much more in an empowered place, which is exactly why the people that are running this world right now don't want you to get. They don't want you to get to that place of empowerment, and that is what we want all of us to be in. So this is why it's about la gente, the village.
This is really what Crystal Sage Wisdom is about. You know, we're medicine women in an urban setting, living and walking and trying our best to walk and talk and walk.
And course correcting as we go. That's all we could do, mi gente. Listen, we gotta close this baby out because we got other things to do.
We got much other things to do.
And you know us, we'll keep if you leave us. Pero listen, family, once again, thank you so much for all of the ways that you love us, for those liking our videos, subscribing to our channel, for sharing our videos, for commenting. Thank you so much. Again, it energizes our spaces and it allows us to reach more people. And there's a lot of people that maybe could or would want to benefit, or it could be helpful in some way, some of our messages within our videos. Because again, we're all students. We may be teachers, we may be wearing teacher hats sometimes, but we're also still students, and we all need to learn. Like we said, the village, we learn from one another. So thank you once again. Mi gente, look out for future, you know, I don't know, what would they be? A Zoom or some sort of live situation where we can focus in a little bit on particular topics that maybe you may want to join in on and go in a little deeper.
We're getting different requests. We have some people who would love to join us on a Crystal Sage Wisdom Cafecito break chat outside. There's things that we're entertaining. Look, we have a lot of ideas, and we're also sitting on a whole bunch of content that we just haven't been able to even sit and push out, or interviews that I'm sure some of you would love to see, because this is our full time. And if you would like to make a donation on our work, the more we're able to raise for our content creating, we're able to feed the channel and maybe even expand the team so that we can expand the things that we're presenting to you. Thank you so much for being here. Like, share, subscribe. We love you, and we'll see you next episode.
Thank you so much for joining us here in episode 13. Ciao.